Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Spin the Wheel Doctor Who podcast. Today I am again joined by Jamie. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, hello.
And today we are here to review the Series 2 episode, Fear Her. Of course, the David Tennant, Rose Tyler, Billy Piper episode and whatnot. So this is the first time I've personally watched it in a good 3 or 4 years. A lot has changed in 3 or 4 years. But Jamie, out of interest, when was the last time you watched this episode?
Excluding the recent rewatch, I think it was October last year. I think I watched it with a couple of friends of mine, and we were trying to have we had a bit of a piss take watch along of it.
Yeah. Friend of mine, sister of mine, of course, human nature, family of blood. So, out of interest, in that time you watched it, what did you think of it then? And have your opinions evolved, maybe?
Oh, when I watched it, I had the environment of watching with other people, and us all having some fun with it and taking the piss. So, but even then, even when doing that, I didn't find the story as horrendously awful as everyone said, and I thought, it's not that bad. It's quite funny in like a sort of so bad it's good kind of way, but there are some genuinely good parts about it. So, I was kind of thinking like, okay, maybe this is just the environment of watching with other people because that usually enhances the experience. Maybe watching on my own, I won't enjoy it as much. So, that's the mindset I went into it for my most recent viewing last week.
And absolutely, and before I was thinking like, oh, this is one of the worst episodes of all time. And like I rewatched it today and I came out of it like, okay, it's not great. However, there are worse episodes that have been broadcast since I last watched it, like in the last 4 years, and I think, okay, maybe those are a little bit worse than Fear Her. So Fear Her is not amongst the worst episodes of Doctor Who, in my opinion. Like, it's down there, but it's not there, if you know what I mean, because there are quite a few of like the most recent era that I would say are worse than Russell T Davies' worst. Like,
for me,
go for it.
This is even the worst RTD story.
What would you say is?
New Earth.
New Earth, oh wow. I rewatched that the other day with my girlfriend and she loved it just because she found Billy Piper and David Tennant very hot, which is valid. New Earth is like, it's one of those kind of
That's the first valid opinion I've heard if she's skipping 9.
Well, to be fair, I still made sure she watched the great ones like Father's Day and the finale, especially with the Regeneration. Like, she had to watch that before going into 10.
Get her to watch Dalek.
I know, but the thing is, Dalek is one of those, it's like, I don't know, you've seen my review and you know my opinions of it. It's like a 9 out of 10 episode, but it's just a little bit repetitive. I don't want to say repetitive because I know I'll have my head chopped off by a load of people listening. But
I've already hired the hitman.
Yeah, no, it's still like a 9 out of 10 episode. But for just judging her character, I think she would have preferred Father's Day, and she said it was the best of the series. So I was like, yeah, hell yeah. But she really likes New Earth. But I would still say. World War 3, the Series 1 episode, is probably worse than Fear. Oh, I don't know, actually. They're on the similar levels.
I like the Slitheen 2-parter. I think it's fun.
It's fun, but Part 2's not as good as Part 1. Part 1's alright, Part 2's just bad. So when did you rewatch this one? Last week, right?
It was like last... So last Friday, I rewatched Husbands of River Songs. That was a different story. And the Friday before that, I watched 2 episodes, Fear Her and Asylum of the Daleks. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I saw your scathing review of Asylum. So, this is your biggest opportunity ever to annoy me. Which episode do you prefer, Fear Her or Asylum of the Daleks? Please, Jamie.
Before the rewatch, I would have said Asylum of the Daleks. After the rewatch, Fear Her. On rewatch of Asylum of the Daleks, I absolutely despised it. I really did. Like, I know we did that podcast a little bit ago, but I don't know, the enjoyment I got from watching it in that podcast just all fizzled away, and just more and more things just pissed me off about the story. And the main one was Amy. I hate Amy in Asylum of the Daleks. That is like the one time I really genuinely hate her.
So Fear Her, Jamie, why is it great?
I wouldn't say it's great, but basically, before going in, like I said before, I thought, oh, maybe when I enjoyed it was because of the environment of watching with other people. But honestly, on a rewatch, I still don't think it's that bad. Like, I wouldn't say it's good. I wouldn't say it's great. I wouldn't even say it's okay. Like, it is still pretty naff, but I get some enjoyment out of it. Like, there's some parts which I think are, legitimately good. There's some parts which I get ironic enjoyment out of, and then there's some parts which are terrible. It's like a perfect mix of, it's a perfect mix of a bad story which isn't that bad.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried in like the first 10 minutes because I was like, I actually quite enjoyed this. Like the first 10 minutes are quite harmless, and then I found myself kind of drifting, especially in the second half when we more had the Chloe Webber story. I was like, okay, the intrigue at the start was enough to propel me to kind of enjoy it and watch and like get some enjoyment, especially with some of the funny gags as well, with the council man and the fingers on lips.
Yes.
And the materializing TARDIS going the wrong way. And it's like, I saw a tweet about that recently. It's like when the episode is 45 seconds too short, so you have to, extend it a little bit. So you have that little chunk. I thought that was quite funny. But it's like all of those little things, and I think they did have to make up with the clear lack of budget in this episode, because this was just a budget cutter, and they had to make up for that, and I think they did with the witty scripts, especially like the back home. I've been experimenting with back home in line. It's just meant to be like a little comedy with some some serious undertones to it, especially with the rather obtuse undertone of the abuse, the child abuse and whatever. So that comes to towards the end, and I'm just going to skip to it. I hate the singing. I know that probably resonates with some families out there, but as someone who doesn't resonate with that, I just found the song really, really irritating. I don't know about you.
I mean, I thought the singing was sweet enough. Like, it's their like coping mechanism. Yeah. I've never had to deal with that, but I imagine for it is quite a common thing for people to sing to calm themselves down. I thought it. Yeah. I thought it was fine. Maybe maybe the song choice was a bit irritating, but I really didn't care like what song it was because it was like a 2-minute scene.
Yeah, of course. But I did notice, and some of these things are going to be pros and cons. For example, the direction and the color grade. In some instances, I think, okay, that was really good. Some instances, I think, not so good. For example, the color grading at the start in the pre-title sequence, you get like this pan into Chloe's room, and it's really menacing, and the room is like really dark, and it's been color graded that way. And I thought, okay, that is really eerie. But then towards the end, when the doctor goes into Chloe's room and the doctor's like high above, and then Chloe's just out in her bed, he's really bright, and then she has been color graded really dark. And I just think, okay, that's something we kind of get told not to kind of do in post-production lessons at university, and I just think that's not so good. And it's like instances with the editing, but also the direction as well. For example, towards the start, various points of this episode, especially with like the zoom-ins, there's not like camera work, keyframes in editing. I think this episode utilizes keyframes quite a lot, and like for us, for YouTubers and whatever, keyframes are absolutely fine. But in a Doctor Who episode, you rarely see keyframes. But I do think there were quite a few keyframes, because if it was camera work, I'd be super impressed, because it felt really unnatural for a camera operator to be able to execute some of these things. So I thought that was.
I think it was keyframes. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was keyframes to like save some of the recording budget. They thought they'd use keyframes in the edit.
Yeah, and I think it kind of cut corners in those kind of respects.
It definitely feels like a cheap episode, because it's like, I feel like if they wanted to do a cheap episode, I think they should have gone full on and did like a bottle episode instead of trying to do like this story with like some big ideas. And you got the Olympic spectacle, you got the scribble monster and stuff. It's like, I feel like maybe that's something which you shouldn't do with the budget episode. Yeah. I feel like if they kept it like more low key and just like change some of the things to help to accommodate for the budget, I think that would have helped instead of accommodating the budget for the
sure. Because I think the father drawing in the wardrobe, I think that could have done with a better budget, because that wasn't so good. It was just like a red light when the doors were closed. It was like a red light, and then just someone in the cupboard like banging it to make sure like the threats. And then when Rose wouldn't approach Chloe at the end because the wardrobe's in the way of her supposedly, I just think this is a little bit cringe, a little bit corny and whatever. Well, the ending is really
this story, I'm not going to deny the fact that this story is really corny. It really is.
No, but here's the thing. What you were saying is absolutely right. It's like there's so many good ideas in this episode, and I like from a scripting perspective, there are some nitpicks I'm sure you may have seen on Twitter in response to Andrew Hayden, what I said about some of my criticisms about the writing. But otherwise, in terms of the ideas and the concept of this, it's really hard to fault until you kind of get to the Isola story, and then you can kind of pick flaws because it's sci-fi. So of course, sci-fi is going to be easier, should I say, to kind of take jabs at. But as in the actual human story of just children disappearing and the abuse and whatever, and like the actual mystery, and you have them on the nose references to Lewis, for example, like the Inspector Morse series. So and I did like that vibe and dynamic. And it's interesting, actually, because 2 episodes in this series cover similar topics, the other being, what, Jamie? It's like who game shows. Come on, Jamie. Quiz.
I'm going to be honest. The only other Series 2 episode, Series 2 story I've watched recently was the Cyberman 2-part. Fear's the first one I've seen. That was back in, like, June, July time. Fear's the first Series 2 I've watched in a long time, so I'm sorry, I'm up in the dark on this one.
The Idiot's Lantern.
Oh yeah, now I remember.
And the father and stuff.
Well, I say I remember. I always forget the Idiot's Lantern exists because I was thinking of Series 2. I was thinking like School Reunion, nope. London Monsters, nope. And Tooth and Claw, nope. It's like I forgot the Idiot's Lantern existed.
Yeah, it is.
Well, in my opinion, I think they did the abuse story better in this episode than the Idiot's Lantern because it didn't end with Rose telling Chloe to forgive her dad or anything.
Oh god, that would have been horrendous. Yeah,
because in the Idiot's Lantern, it's like the dad is a bit well, not a bit. He's definitely got abusive undertones. And then Rose basically telling the boy like go up to him and everything. It's like really.
Yeah, and I think this episode did quite the opposite. Well, it did the opposite in terms of it didn't really have like a redemption arc for the mother, because I think the mother was portrayed to be a little bit bad in this episode, in the sense that okay, so the child was lonely, it's her fault. At the end, Rose says don't leave her alone, because at this point she's already wrote the doctor and the TARDIS away, and then Rose leaves saying don't leave her alone, and then the next time we see Chloe's mother, she's left her alone downstairs. And I think that's kind of
that was so weird. That was very much a we need plot. You be Trish, be stupid.
Yeah, and I mean, like, okay, that's bad, but then you gotta think, okay, what is the character like? And then you think, okay, the character is like, not, I wouldn't say neglected, this child, because you can be lonely without being neglected, but in terms of like this mother clearly isn't the best, but I do think it was quite harsh with the dealing with the mother in a scene with that very scene where they open the door and then they say hi, and then the doctor and Rose go away after the mother says no, we don't need you and whatever, and then the doctor kind of says, again, it's like consistent with the character with being an alien and not understanding humans and whatever, but I didn't really like the line where he says, oh, good luck dealing with her on your own. And I just think that's so judgmental to single parents. It's like they can probably cope with their child. They don't need someone barging in and helping them with their problems.
I never wrote it like that, because I know you mentioned in the tweet like it's like a bit of a offensive comment about single parents. I wasn't sure which one you were referring to. That one, that makes sense, but that is a bit iffy. Like never really thought about that.
The writer just chucked it in as like a little bit of a quip. It's like, I'm going to get into your house somehow. How do I do that? I'm going to, not blackmail, what's the word? Guilt trip the mother into let me in. And in doing so, it's like, good luck dealing with it on your own. And I just thought a little bit crap there. And especially...
I think Doctor Who Poop did that scene better, where it was just like, she was like, can you help her? And the doctor says no, and he just walks away. And then she's like, wait, and just holds up a fat stack of cash. And the doctor's like, yes, I can help her.
I've never seen that, but that's brilliant.
I'm just going to say this now. I think, like, 70% of my enjoyment of Fear Her comes down to Doctor Who Poop's edit, because every single time I'm just like, I think of the Doctor Who Poop edit and it just makes the scene so much better. Like the TARDIS like looking the wrong way, instead of it being the wrong way, I just think of Jodie Whittaker coming in and going nearly and just fading away and then cutting to credits.
What's the point of being alive? I can watch the Halloween Apocalypse without thinking of that scene, and then when it isn't that scene, I just think, well, that isn't how it went, just because the Doctor edits are so good. But so, and I also didn't particularly like going back to the topic of like little lines that I didn't like. It's like when the Doctor was not interrogating, but just talking to Chloe and trying to kind of get into her brain in terms of what is going on in there. I didn't like how Chloe then left, and then the Doctor was like, "Oh, Chloe, don't be a spoil sport." I just thought, okay, you clearly have this child who is not, well, I wouldn't say ill, but like the mother is really terrified of her. There's something clearly wrong with her compared to last year where her grades were really great and she was a really sociable kid, kind of. And then the Doctor just turns around and says, "Oh, Chloe, don't be a sports ball." I just didn't particularly like that line. But again...
Yeah, it's like, if you take away the whole, the Doctor's suspicious that she's an alien, it feels...
the wrong way.
Iffy.
Yeah. But those are really my gripes with the actual script. So I'm not sure what you think of like the general story. What do you think?
I think the story is, interesting enough. Like the first half, I think, the mystery is quite interesting. It's not what you, it's an interesting idea. I think the idea of, Carl's drawings being used, to capture people, I think that's a cool concept. I just don't think it fits with Doctor Who much because, it is an inherently, childish concept. Like, I think if they made it a Sarah Jane Adventures episode, I think it would have, the concept would have worked better.
I mean, I think that our Solus thing is when it kind of delved into CBBC territory, but the actual premise, should I say, of scribbled creatures and whatever, like drawings coming to life as well as being drawn and then taken away from reality, that was such a fantastic concept. But then when we had...
Some of the effects, of the actual drawings moving and stuff, the bit before the title sequence goes, I think that looks fantastic.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. And I just think it's especially with the pre-title sequence, I can't really fault it. I thought, okay, this might actually be decent, and then it kind of devolved. I was like, okay, maybe not. But yeah, I thought the drawings were quite good, and I liked how the Doctor said, "Oh, in the corner of your eye, you notice, but what do you do when you can't explain it? You look the other way." And I like how it kind of implied that in the corner of your eye, you do see the movement. So I was like, I wonder if the drawings are actually moving in the backgrounds, subtly. And I just think, budget, probably not.
Yeah. I doubt they would do the effort for I doubt they would put in that much effort for something which barely anyone will see. Even if it was a high budget story, I don't think I'd want to commission someone to do that.
Exactly, especially with 2006 budget and a special effects team anyway. But yeah, so you made a little YouTube short. Do you want to explain what that was? Because I'm kind of touched upon that. So about the cold air and stuff.
Alright, so basically, I do a load of YouTube shorts which just giving little did you know facts about Doctor Who, and for Fear Her, I've recently found out that throughout many scenes you can see the actor's breath, and that's in the air, and that's because they actually filmed the story in the middle of January instead of during the summer, like the story states, and to avoid breaking the verisimilitude of the story, that's a film studies term for those who don't know. To avoid breaking that, they threw in a line by the Doctor where he just you commented on the cold and how it seemed like someone was sucking the heat out, and I think that's a clever workaround. I didn't notice the breath, but if I did notice it, it would have taken me out the story if they didn't throw in that line.
Yeah, I mean, because London 2012 and it's the Olympics, of course it's going to be set in the summer, so for actor's breath, I'm sure a lot of the keen eyes back at the time would have noticed that, but thankfully there was that explanation, as well as the Isolus pod actually needing heat, so it was actually working into the script that the Isolus would need heat.
Yeah, because the Isolus needs heat, it's basically just like a tornado with heat right underneath where the cars always stop.
Absolutely, but then again at the end when it's feel the love, and then it flies into the thing, I was like, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, it is corny. I mean, I don't mind a corny story. I love the Underwater Menace, for instance, and the Dominators. I love them, despite how corny they are. So I don't really mind the corniness much with it, because Doctor Who is an inherently campy show. I feel like I could just get behind it, just as long as it's not to the extreme.
I mean, I don't think it's the only reason why it's corny for me is because of the music. And don't get me wrong, the music is fantastic, but I think Murray Gold went too hard for this episode, because the music is fantastic, but the actual content of the episode doesn't kind of warrant it. So we get this really epic feel good music, and I just think something a little bit more subtle here wouldn't go amiss. because that's what made it corny, in my opinion, the music, as opposed to the actual resolution to the story. It was really...
Do you want to talk about Chloe? Just in general.
Yeah, of course. What do you think of her?
All right, I just want to say this right off the bat. I don't think she's the worst child actress in here. In fact, I hate dissing on child actors because they're only kids. They're never going to be as good as adults and stuff. They're going to be a bit rough around the edges. I hope the actress didn't get too much harassment for her performance and everything. But
of course.
Even though from kid actor standards, I don't think she's the worst. I think people like Ruby from In the Forest of the Shipe, she was way worse. Angie in Nightmare in Silver, way worse. Cyril, Doctor in the Wardrobe, way worse.
Yeah.
I don't think Chloe's that bad by comparison. I think the place where she falters is trying to be menacing, as the villain. I think she would have been fine if she wasn't made the villain.
Yeah.
If she was just a regular kid, I think she could have given a good performance. But when she's 9 years old and trying to be menacing, it's kind of laughable in a way. And I hate saying that because, like I said, she's only 9. But
when we have the pans up to the window and then she's just there, I just think that doesn't really work for whatever reason, because she is a kid ultimately.
Those shots annoy me because I'm just you're going to get a handprint on the window. Take your hand off the window.
Yeah, but then I think they did it dirty in the edit, especially when she was speaking, especially when the doctor kind of zapped her out and then we were actually listening to Chloe Webber. They did kind of like a reverb little sound effect when she was talking in the edit. And so it kind of echoed her voice a little bit. And I just think that may be a reason why people didn't really gravitate towards her performance, because the voice was really weird. And also because, she had a hissy fit of just slamming her hand against the bed, and I just thought that's a little bit cringe. It's she didn't have the best to work with, especially because when she was knocked out with the doctor, all she was doing was lying on the bed just speaking, and I thought, okay, she didn't really have the best material to work with here. And I think
she was basically just told do ASMR before it was cool.
Yeah, but then again, I don't think she actually did ASMR. It's just because of the little reverb they did in the edit that actually made it sound like that. And that's why, again, if you just think it's ASMR, then that's probably why people had a negative actual opinion of her when it's not actually her fault. It was butchered in the edit. Well, some would claim that's intentional. Well, it was intentional, but you know what I mean. But there was this one little scene, and it's not a nitpick, it's just something I noticed with the direction. It's the scene where Chloe and her mother is in the room, and the mother says, doesn't this make you feel part of something? Like the 2012 Olympics on the computer. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah.
And then Chloe turns over her shoulder, and she says, unless you want me to draw you, Mum. But the thing is, she overturns, so she is looking so far back over her shoulder, whereas her mother... it's right next to her, if not slightly in front of her, because she's leaning over the desk. So I was that's a little weird continuity there. So it's a little nitpick, but it's very noticeable if you know what to look out for. And I'm doing filmmaking. I'm 2.5 years deep into it. I notice those things. So yeah, that was a little bit of poor direction, but otherwise, the direction in itself wasn't bad, except for the keyframes. But I think they could.
Yeah, we've already covered that.
Yeah, they should have tried to do that manually, with the camera operator. Though I think they should have went that extra mile. But again, costs, kind.
All right, I have to know, what do you think of Kel the council man?
Oh, he's fantastic. I love the scene where it's
yes.
You've just taken a council axe from a council van, and now you're taking
I'm reporting you to the council.
Exactly, that's a brilliant line. And
honestly, I think I would love him. I think I would love him even if Doctor Who Poop didn't love him. He's just so funny.
Didn't make a song from him as well? Doctor Who Poop. They made a song from his lines.
Yeah. It's and I mean the scene where Rose breaks the concrete trying to get it. All I can think of is Doctor Who Poop's Minecraft edit of that, because she has a pickaxe and everything.
Yeah.
In general, it's
go for it.
Kel is just generally the Stan character of the movie of the episode. I almost said the movie, but yeah, he's the Stan character of the episode.
Well, because of course in the episode as a whole, if you take him out, there's not really any kind of entertaining characters except for the Doctor Rose, and maybe the father that says, "What's your game?" and the Doctor says, I'm just being facetious. There's no cause for it. You had
yeah. I know who you're talking about.
The Doctor had some fun with him. but as himself, he wasn't really fun. So, the cherry on the top, even though I was a little bit weirded out. Again, this is probably a nitpick for a lot of people, but how he was so on board with the story, even though he wasn't around for most of it, in terms of, he's just seemingly okay with the Solus thing and the whole plot. Like, it's because he's introduced into the story so late on. He's kind of just like Rose's sidekick, and he's just like, yeah, I know what's going on. I just think, no, you don't, mate. You haven't a clue what's going on, but you're just along for the ride.
I mean, just in general, I think the ending was the worst part of the story. Like, it was rushed, dragged out. Like, so they've killed Chloe from the Isolus. It's like, she's the Isolus is buggered off, and then all of a sudden it's like, the dad's out, and now you have to sing about him, and it's like, where's the doctor? Has he not been returned? And him carrying the Olympic torch is cool and all, but I think having both that and the dad stuff together, I think makes the ending feel very bloated. And it's like, if you had to cut the dad coming back, so then we can have the cool moment of Tennant carrying the Olympic torch.
Yeah, and I did think as the scene was coming up, I was like, I can't be bothered because the scene is so cringe, because of course I hate the singing, and that's how they defeated it, and especially with the direction, it's just a red light with some voiceover, and I just think I've always hated that scene. It's just like, yeah, it's terrible. But effectively I do agree with you, and I was like, okay, I'm going to keep an eye out for this scene. And I thought, okay, maybe you did need a little more something to the story to make it kind of worthwhile, but I think you could cut that scene and nothing of value would be lost. In fact, you'd lose like just a really cringe scene with poor direction, poor writing, in fact. And usually when I find a little bit of a scene cringe, I just think, okay, I'm going to turn off the episode. However, this is the only episode, and that's the only scene where I was specifically just skipped the scene. Like, I actually skipped about 40 seconds of it when they were singing, and the father was coming to life. I was like, I can't be dealing with this, so I just skipped it to, the torch scene. And even with the torch scene, did the man just die for the doctor to pick that flame up? Like, what happened there? Is the guy okay?
I never understood what happened with the man. It's like, so the spaceship hit him, and then it's like, he stumbled a bit, and then it's like, oh, okay, all right, you're right, mate. You're gonna continue. Okay, so you're gonna be able to run all the way. So you were injured from the spaceship hitting the torch, which I imagine if it hit with some force, it would probably hurt a bit. But the fact that he was able to run from like wherever the street was to the center of London perfectly fine before eventually collapsing, and it's like it's like, oh, we can have the doctor take the torch and stuff. I wish they gave a better reason for why the doctor needed to take the torch.
Exactly. Well, he was just there for some reason. Yeah, but it's like it kind of hit the torch, and then he did a little stumble, and I thought, okay, that's fine because he's still running, like you said. And then he falls, and I just think, okay, this is probably completely unrelated. He's just like burnt out, because the actual torch thing, they passed it from person to person every so miles, didn't they? Even Matt Smith.
I've never watched the Olympics, so I genuinely don't know.
Oh, okay, so that never happens. Like, it's not just one person running around the streets. They always pass it from like celebrity to celebrity. And
didn't Matt Smith do it for 2012?
Yeah. That's why Matt Smith did it. So it wouldn't be him. So, of course, suspend disbelief and whatever. And effectively, it says, the Olympic dream is dead. And I think, okay, so this guy, is he okay? Or is he actually dead? And then the doctor comes in and takes a torch. And I think, okay, this is meant to be a feel-good story. This is meant to be a feel-good end. But that guy, did the doctor just take the torch from a dead guy? Like, the doctor would care more about the dead guy as opposed to the torch, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I'm just going to assume that the guy didn't die and he just passed out from exhaustion or something. Maybe he was too unfit for the Olympics, and the spaceship knocked some wind out of him for a good 20 minutes, so he can't make the last stairs. Or maybe he just saw the stairs and was like, crap, I didn't know I had to climb stairs, so just fainted.
He got so close to the end as well. The doctor literally picks it up, and then we have a wide shot of the stadium, and I think, okay, the doctor is literally there already. But yeah, it did need a better explanation, as you said.
I mean, it's a cool, it's an iconic scene, but it's like, the logistics of it is weird.
Yeah, it was a very dodgy ending, and like I said again, my goal went too hard for the end with the music, because I
like it.
I suppose I
think that music is a nice bit of music. It just maybe it would have worked better, like the ending to a triumph story.
Yeah. Like, this didn't have the stakes that the music actually warranted to be on.
Yeah, it's like What's the triumph? The Olympics. Oh, most of your audience are Doctor Who fans, so we don't care about sports.
Yeah, fair enough. But effectively, there's only one real thing I want to mention, and it was like a scene about halfway through. In fact, it's exactly halfway through. I'm looking at iPlayer now, and it's the scene where they're in the kitchen and the Doctor picks up, the jam jar and whatever, and just sticks his fingers in it to lick it off.
I said I think that scene's funny.
Oh, okay. You kind of cut out there for some reason. But yeah, it was a really good scene. Wow, it was a really good moment. But it's like the scene. What was the point of the scene? Because we had the Doctor talking to Chloe in the bedroom about the father, and then they're in the kitchen, and you have that quip, and then you just have like a little exchange, and then Rose says, "Oh, what does this mean?" And the Doctor says, "Oh, let's go find out." And then they go straight back to the bedroom. And I think, well, what was the point in that scene? I guess it kind of breaks up the pace of the episode a little bit. But I can't help but think it is a little bit pondering, because you could cut that scene because you don't need to cut to the kitchen to then go straight back to the bedroom. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I did think it was a weird cut, but I like the scene enough as is that I really don't care that it's there, because it's like if you need to pad out the story to reach 45 minutes, there's worse scenes you can have.
Yeah. That's quite funny. But
can I just say one more thing about this story? Have you seen the TARDIS for it?
I have not. Michael would kill me if I said no to him. Was it?
All right, basically, I think the TARDIS for this story is actually quite cool, because it's basically like the gist of it is that it's essentially a like one of those crappy documentaries I put in heavy quotations where it's like what's the mystery in this seemingly normal town, where it's like this amateur reporter trying to investigate the disappearances of the kids and everything. Yeah. I think that's a cool concept, a unique one for this kind of episode. I just wanted to bring it up because it's series 2 and it's both of them have TARDIS, and I just think that's like an amateur filmmaker trying to do like a documentary on the disappearances and stuff.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Like one of those really crappy documentaries.
Okay, I'll give that a go. Again, it may be just a crappy documentary because, again, budget. They're like, please don't take this episode too seriously. This is a mini-sode, but it's also very crap. But the thing is, I really want to rewatch the confidential episodes of all of these, because I'm rewatching it like series 1, series 2. I really want to watch the confidentials, but they're not available anywhere, like in good quality.
Yeah, all the Blu-ray releases are confidential cut downs, and it's like, if more than whoever gets on collection box sets, they better release they better have the full length confidentials on there.
But I'm waffling. Jamie, are there any other thoughts of this episode from your perspective?
Not really. There's not really an episode I can go that in depth on. All I say is just it's not as bad as people say, because I just think it's quite fun in places, and it has bad parts, but I get some enjoyment out of it, mostly thanks to Doctor Who poop. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say.
Yeah, I think the addition of like the councilman and these random scenes dotted around that are just quite funny. I think they do a lot of the heavy lifting of this episode, and I think we should jump into the audience interaction section before we do go into like conclusions, scores. Again, I don't have a conclusion, but I do have a score. Do you have a conclusion, maybe?
Yeah, I'll whip up a conclusion.
Awesome, no worries. So I did a poll on Twitter. And I said, rewatching Fear Hero for a recording with Jamie tonight. What do you think of it? And I had great episode, good episode, bad episode, and terrible episode as the 4 options. We had 17 votes and 41. I would go in the order of the most popular first. So the most popular vote was terrible episode with 41.2% of the votes. Then we had bad episode with 35.3% of the votes. Then we had 5.9, then we had 17.6% for great episode. And then we had 5.9% for good episode. And that were the results of the poll. And then in the replies, we had 2 replies, and we also had Michael Wilson on Discord. So what did people say? We had the Garnetto, who said, torn between bad and terrible. It's one of the rare misses of the Russell T Davies era for me, but after having had so many worse episodes in the last few years, it's better than those. And I just said agreed. Yeah, I kind of touched upon that in the review. And Andrew Hayden said, great episode that just looks bad because it's in the RTD era. And I said, be real. And then he said, it is what it's surrounded by can impact the perception of an episode, and this is still a great episode. It's one of Russell T Davies' weaker stories, yeah, but it's still great. And I said, I mean, maybe, I'll just say the entire thread. I mean, maybe, but I rewatched the divorce of the perception of having watched it amongst other episodes. I went into it singularly. I can see the corniness, lazy direction, and borderline offensive attitudes towards single parents, not because it's next to Army of Ghosts, for example, which I think is great. And then he said, that's fair. I think it has some strong character work that makes me cry when I watch it, and I don't disagree. 10 Rose have amazing chemistry, again, don't disagree, and bounce off each other really well, and it's great to see the companion take the initiative. Massively agree. I can't believe I didn't actually know that. I thought Rose, like, taking the initiative throughout the episode was
Rose
really
is more useful in this episode than Yaz was in every episode aside from Power of the Doctor.
Thank you for annoying Michael Wilson. One of our avid listeners to this. Sorry, Michael. But you're not...
Oh, all right. That was a bit harsh. Rose is more useful in the story than Yaz was in all of Series 11. All right, I'll just say Series 11 just to be fair. Just to be fair, because I was being... It was hyperbole, just to be funny.
Even though I can't really think of her doing much in Series 12 or Series 13 either, except for Mip around.
I mean, Series 12, she did some stuff, yeah.
I've got more things. But he said, and save the Doctor in the end, where it is in the finale. Very interesting take. And he said, I do agree that it is somewhat cringy in moments, though. Fair enough, Andrew. And then on Discord, Michael Wilson said, it's nowhere near bad as a lot of people make out, as you said, Jamie. But it's still a weaker episode. There's a sense of the budget being cut, but even if the monsters are really badly handled, despite being good ideas, there seems to be a lot of plodding around, and the end is cheesy in the worst way, and he gave it a 4 out of 10. And then I asked him to elaborate on bad monsters being handled badly and whatever, and he said the Scribble monster and Drawing coming to life both look really weak and just obviously a cheap effect, and I don't particularly disagree with that. So yeah, that's the audience.
Add on to the audience interaction. I found the scores, because I watched I watched the episode with my friends last year. I found the scores. I'm not gonna name who these people are because they'd rather be anonymous. But back then, I actually gave it a 3 on that watch, so you can know that was my initial watch. But one of them gave it a 5, and the other 2 gave it a 2.
Oh wow, okay. I was kind of mixing with like a 3 and a 2 for this episode, but I'll get into my actual final score in a moment. So I'm guessing it's not a 3 out of 10 anymore for you from what you've just said.
No. So should I just give my conclusion?
Of course, yeah, go.
All right. So overall, I think it's not as bad as people say. Like, I think there are good parts about it. Like, I think the mystery is quite interesting. I love Kelby, the Council Man. I think the Doctor and Rose are enjoyable in this for the most part. And, I think, it's interesting in the first half. Then by the second half, it becomes a bit bloated, a bit boring at points. And it is very corny. From, the I Saw This Monster to, some of the performances from Chloe and the Chloe, I'm coming to hurt you, and all that stuff. But I still think it's enjoyable enough. It's got it gets boosted up thanks to Doctor Poop improving my opinion on it, and it's a harmless little story. It doesn't anger me. It doesn't annoy me. It's only 45 minutes. It's not like it's an hour and a half 4-part classic Who story. It's not like it's a 2-part modern Who story. It's not like it's 6 parts like the bloody Web Planet. No. It's short. Yeah. It's simple. It's fine. It's a 4 out of 10, I think.
Yeah, that makes the average very easy. Again, would you believe? But yeah, I don't disagree with anything of what you just said. I think I definitely agree that it tails off in the second half of the episode. And the first half is quite good and actually is quite impressive with all the ideas and the concepts. And you think, okay, this might actually go somewhere. But then I saw the story is introduced and I think, okay, this is not so good. And then, of course, the corny ending does not help anything. Some of the character choices are frustrating but can be perceived as consistent with their characters, like the mother being a dumbass and the Doctor being alien. But again, I still don't like some of the attitudes, and that does kind of really bug me. But that's not like a huge problem that kind of takes the episode down. I just think it's like lazily, sloppily written in that respect. But other than that, I don't think this is a particularly good nor terrible episode, and I think episodes in recent times has really put into perspective just how not awful this episode is, because at the time,
it's like I'd watch this episode for 24 hours straight than rewatch Legend of the Sea Devils, for instance,
or Survivors of the Flux, or Orphan 55, or the Surrounding
Survivors of the Flux, Orphan 55, I try every time I rewatch Orphan 55. I try going in with it's so bad it's good, it's an ironic enjoyment, okay? Have fun with it, and every single time I'm just like, this is so bad it's bad.
Like, it is the closest to objectively bad you will ever get. Orphan 55 is just like a disaster. And then you have people on Twitter saying, oh, it's an underappreciated gem. It's actually very good. It's great, in fact. And I just think, you guys are not for real.
Yeah, it's like, oh, guys.
So that was our review of Fear Her, guys. That has been the second episode of the second series of the Spin the Wheel Doctor Who podcast. And next week, we are joined by our first special guest of the series. We are joined by Troy, Red Archer Live, who is coming to review an episode of Series 12 with us. I won't reveal the episode until next week. However, keep an eye out for that one because it is promised.
Let's just say it will be a very interesting episode.
Oh, dear God. Okay, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Comments what you thought of our opinions. What do you think of Fear Her? Let us know, and we'll see you next week for a review of the elusive Series 12 episodes. Take care, guys. Peace out.